Do you ever have that itching, burning feeling deep down inside like you want to eat someone's brains?
Only when I'm at work.
Yeah, well, you have that double dose now. Welcome back to Bitch I Ain't Scared, kids. And I'm not being very original today, but it's been a long day. How you doing, Rob?
I'm doing good. We're in the midst of November, and we're going to talk about some zombies today.
And, other creatures that are in the same sort of not species, but phylum, family.
Just in the file. Yeah, we'll just do that. I'm sure that everybody has been waiting since we started the show to talk about the undead.
I guess. But before we do that, I like to snoop around and do research and shit. Now, anyway. I just happened to come across this. I like to look at the Instagram pages and look at pictures of shirtless men and things like that. And sometimes I'll come across some really interesting things. For instance, a comic book called Harriet Tubman, Demon Slayer.
So they made her a demon slayer.
Why the fuck not? We got fucking Abraham Lincoln and...
That's what I'm saying. It's like...
Pride and Prejudice and zombies. I, for one, think it's pretty cool. So the author's name is David Crownson. And I think it looks really cool. I will share the Instagram page so people can look at the cover. It's very Michonne.
Okay, so I was going to say, she's not Harriet Tubman as we know her. She's younger.
I mean, I don't know how old she is, but she looks very fit, and she has a samurai sword.
Okay.
And she's about to slay
samurai
some
is her
demons.
choice of weapon. Okay, interesting.
At least on the cover. So I haven't, been able to read it because it costs money.
Yeah.
So,
Well, she's taking it all down. I mean, yeah, Abraham did only Well, I guess he may have done demons, but he was strictly vampires from my knowledge, but...
I didn't read the book or see the movie, so...
She's doing the whole caboodle.
Yes.
Demons, too. All right.
So I thought that was cool. Also, today I went to the doctor, and I completely forgot about this aspect of my life. I've been having trouble sleeping, and I've been having nightmares all week for various reasons. And he said, last time, do melatonin, and I did, but it hit me really hard. I was like, Jesus, I can't get up. I'm having half a pill. He said, well, we can try Ambien. I was like, oh, I don't really want to do more medication. He said, well, it really works fast, and the only thing is, side effect is sleepwalking. I said, oh no, I'm good. I used to sleepwalk when I was a child.
Oh, okay.
And I forgot. But yeah, I sleepwalked and would do weird stuff, like wind up in my sister's bedroom, and she would kick me in the middle of the night. I would wake up to her kicking me and be like, what are you doing? She's like, get out of here. I'm like, no, this is my room. No, it's my room. I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. It is your room. So I don't know why I did that. I think when people sleepwalk, there's something weird going on. They're restless or something. I have to look into it, but it kind of freaked me out that I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Because I did it quite often. So I definitely don't want to sleepwalk as an adult, because I feel like I'll walk out the door and do weird shit. Like that one guy who went to his in-laws' house and murdered them in the middle of the night. I don't want to do that.
No, that would be bad.
Yeah, I think so. And I just don't want to take any more pills. I'm taking enough.
Yeah.
Another weird thing that happened, I was doing an image search, and we talked about little Jodelle Fairland last week. I was looking for pictures of her. And I clicked on one, and I don't know what horror movie this is. She was wearing a white dress, and she was younger. She's 23 years old now. I'm like, Jesus Christ, time flies.
Yeah.
But she's a little girl in this one, or maybe 12. And she's with some sort of monster who's putting her in a weird cellar. And off to the side of the image search, it has these, a sentence or two from the page, and it's like, ooh, sexy Jodelle Fairland. And I was like, she's a kid, so I don't know who thought that was okay. But PSA moment, because I like my high horses. Anytime you come across some shit like that, I think it's always good to report the fuck out of that shit. Mm-hmm. And just get to the bottom of it.
Well, you heard about Finn Winford, though, right? And all that drama?
Who?
Richie from Stephen King's It. And Stranger Things.
Oh, Finn. Yeah.
So you heard about that drama, right?
Agent, manager.
Well, not that. It's very similar to what you just told me. Like, he has female admirers who are like grown women talking about, ooh, call me in 4 years when you 18, and then also, just others just idolizing him and turning him into this like, even though you're a child, like, oh, there'll be like certain tweets to be like, sorry to say, but like, even at 14, he can have it. Or some people have been calling him daddy, apparently, too. And again, that's just, so I mean, it's kind of the same thing. Like, these little kids, probably in addition to Finn on Stranger Things, are probably being sexualized by like fans.
That
happens.
I guess it happens. It's very foreign to me. I don't think that children are sexually appealing, and I don't care what anybody says. It's not fucking acceptable in any part of society. So anytime I come across shit like that, it's just a reminder that there are real monsters out there. We talk about all types of monsters, and we have different theories that relate to society and horror films and books and things, and it's fun. But whenever I come across something that's real, I like to point it out. So that's just a reminder for people to be hypervigilant, because we need to protect children.
Yeah.
We need to protect everyone, but the quicker you can nip that shit in the bud, the quicker we can prevent Corey Feldmans and Corey Haim's of the world from suffering.
Here on that. Yeah, watching their story was devastating.
Yeah.
And when you're a child actor and you're at the prime of your life, and you are trying to make a name for yourself, and they're so innocent, you just never know.
Yeah. I recently saw, and it's like one last thing, but I recently saw that interview he did on The View, and Barbara Walters' ass, I couldn't believe she responded the way she did. Like, you're vilifying an entire industry.
Well, it was just very easy to discredit this one human being who, apparently who's not an A-lister, so why would he be spouting out truth?
But it's not easy. I don't think it's easy, and I just think it's gross.
Well, as many stories as she's heard, I'm surprised.
That's why I was surprised.
Yeah.
She'd been in the business for decades. She had interviewed people about all kinds of things, and that's your response?
Yeah.
Like, so anyway, let's get down to business and stop talking about serious stuff, because I know you can only handle about 30 seconds of it before you want to smack me.
Well, it's really good to point that stuff out. I did not know that about her, and I just heard about the whole Finn thing, so that is something to look at.
It's just crazy, man.
But I thought that we should talk about the undead or infected and the sort of blurry line in between today. A zombie movie will come up once or twice within our show, but we haven't really actually made it a topic for the show, so I thought it'd be cool to do it now. It's November, we think of food, and of course zombies love them some meats, so I thought this would be a good time to do it. So I don't even know what to call this genre anymore. Is it still the zombie genre? I mean, is that a subgenre? Is that the title of the subgenre? Because again, the lines are blurred now, and it's shifted a little bit. Not excluding what happens before, but I mean,
if we think about zombies, I think the immediate thought is that they're dead.
Yes,
but a zombie, going all the way back, isn't someone that's dead. It's someone that's being controlled. If we go back to like voodoo mythology, it's someone who is in a trance, someone who is being hypnotized and forced to do things against their will. you can kind of relate it to that. It's changed into something that is dead and likes to eat people, but if you spread it across all of them,
Yeah.
it can still apply because all of them are being controlled by something else.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they've been exposed to some sort of weird chemical, or they've been bitten by an animal, or they're dead and they unburied themselves. I don't know. And there's other things too we'll get to that also try to they try to pretend that they're not zombies. But really, when I watch it, I'm like, this is a zombie movie. You basically are a zombie movie, even though you tried to call yourself something else, okay?
Okay, well, so I'm going to ask you for an example of that, but first, do you like this genre in horror? Do you
50-50.
50-50? Okay.
Yeah.
And what would you say would be a good example in your book of a good one?
So I prefer movies that are not the typical, like, dead, back from the grave, flesh-eating zombies. I think it's more interesting when you have these people who have been infected by something and it's different. I like 28 Days Later. I like The Crazies.
Okay.
Those are like two really good examples, especially The Crazies, because it's like they're still talking. They're still very aware of things.
So that's the thing. So just from the question, you gave me two examples of what people would not consider zombies because in both movies they're not dead.
But they're infected by stuff. And I mean, the thing is, ultimately, whatever they're infected with is going to lead to death. So it's just sort of like the bookend of these ones are dead and then they get back up. These ones are going to die by whatever they're infected with. It's just until they die, they're causing a lot of ruckus.
Okay. So I actually don't mind this genre. There's so many zombie movies out there. I mean, I can't believe how many people have made throughout the course of how many decades. It's insane how many zombie movies I've not seen. And there are also a lot of different types too. There's, just the typical scary ones.
What's a typical scary one?
Well, just Romero's series. I actually found those to be quite thrilling.
Sometimes.
When I was younger, I used to. I wouldn't get scared, hold my head under the cover scared. But I mean, that makeup in those images and their dead looks on their faces, and I always thought that those were sort of the not top notch scary, but I mean back in the day, that's what you turn to when you think of a scary zombie movie. But zombies are, in my opinion, out of any other horror genre that's used as a sort of catalyst to talk about something that has nothing to do with the undead. And that's what I really appreciate about zombie movies, is that it's never really about them. They're used as an instrument to talk about the real plot of the movie, which is usually a sort of a humanized sort of form of emotion or just how the world works or anything like that. And the zombie thing is just something to just add entertainment to it or to flesh out the story.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you can only do end of the world catastrophe movies so many times to really feel like what people are going to do when the shit hits the fan. And I don't mind it either. I wouldn't say that I'm 50-50. I think I'm more towards I'm maybe a 60-40 on liking zombie movies, but I grew up in the infected generation. When I would watch those movies, I'm old enough to know about the other ones, but I'm more used to the infected ones, the ones who run really fast. They're not really the slow walking ones and stuff like that. So like you said, 28 Days Later and all that stuff, those are the ones that I'm really used to. So that's what I think about when I think of zombie.
Yeah. And Romero is the originator of the zombie, as most people think of it. And I don't really care for those movies. Not him in particular.
Yeah.
I don't care for the flesh-eating zombies that return from the grave because they are a dime a dozen. There are rip-offs, there are straight-to-video, there are so many options, and that's why I don't really care for them. I loved The Walking Dead, and I don't even hate it now, even though people hate it. I just don't watch it because I have lots of things that I have to do, like go outside and smell the fucking roses. So, something had to give. But I do love The Walking Dead. That's probably the best example I have as, traditional zombies that get back up after they're dead. And I also just appreciate some sort of spin. That's why I like the infected. Overall, this is probably best to call all of them infected because they're infected with something. Even if you have no idea what happened, you know that there was something that was released into the air, the water, whatever. And that is what has caused all of these things to happen. Once in a while, like, oh, did you see In the Flesh?
I know of that title. I did not see it.
So that is one example. And I mean, hey, they canceled the show after 2 seasons. Which I can't believe they fucking did it. That's another story. But the way that they told the story, there wasn't any sort of government experiment or anything in the beginning. They just got up. Yeah. It was more of like a biblical thing, we'll say, and that they got up.
There's no room in hell, so they got up.
Then scientists intervened and they rehabilitated them and they gave them treatments where they could be their human selves again and continue to take medication all the time. So I like a good spin. I like The Walking Dead at the end of season 2 when he found out everyone's infected. Mm-hmm. So if you die, you're going to get back up. It's not about being bit. It's like, okay, here we go. That's what I need. If it's just always the same thing where it's like, yes, they're going to bite you and that is going to be your undoing. I just get kind of bored. So that's why I don't really like it. I like things that are funny sometimes. Like, I think it's creative to write a book called Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. I think it's very funny taking 2 very popular things.
It's an awesome idea.
And melding them together.
It's just, I would say that's one movie where the trailer ruined it. Like, I was so excited for this, and then I saw that trailer, and I was like, this is where you want to take it. And I understand that it was sort of like Abraham Lincoln, the Vampire Hunter. I didn't want it. For some reason, I just didn't want it to be so, like, I don't know, just these those characters. I would have preferred them to just be themselves and still have to deal with the undead. Why do they all have to know how to
they all have fight, to kick ass?
Yeah, and visually, I guess it's cool, but I just don't prefer you to use those characters that way. Like, and no hate to women knowing how to fight. I didn't want them to be damsels, but at the same time, you could still be a hero and not have like the literal skill to do it. I mean, those women were trained, and it's just like, that's not what I wanted to see. So I just had a different idea for the story. The trailer just kind of ruined it. I mean, yeah. So that's just my take on that movie. So I never saw it, but this is going to be really bad of me being a huge horror fan. Do you recall any movie, or maybe even show, I mean, aside from iZombie, where they actually called them zombies? It's funny how this name has been associated to the undead when pretty much any movie that you watch, they don't even call them that. To me, using the word zombie is meta because we have established what they are, and so if they use it, that means this world is known of what the undead is, and now it's happening to them. And so it's like, do they even use that term anywhere?
No, we've talked about this before.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't know if it's something that people aren't allowed to do. I don't know.
But did this stem from Romero or something? Like, how did we get to this?
Because that's the only, and I don't even know if they ever say zombie in those movies. I don't know if they have the foresight to be like, these are zombies.
Yeah.
It's just, that's the genre that sort of owns zombie.
Yeah.
Everything else, they have to make something up. And it's kind of a joke in The Walking Dead every time you meet a new group of people. Oh, the biters.
Yeah.
Oh, the walkers. Oh, it's like, what else are you gonna call these things? The snappers. The what?
The chompers. Yeah.
The chompers. Like, oh my god.
Yeah.
I need to meet a New Yorker. I want to know what they call them. That's what I want to know.
Right.
Shit.
So, okay, well then let's talk about sort of, I guess, the difference. I had somebody tell me that they didn't really see a huge difference between zombie, quote unquote, undead, and infected. And I personally think there is a huge difference. There is lots of similarities. But if you say zombie, I know what that is. And if you say infected, I know what that is. And they're not the same thing. Mm-hmm. So define, like, tell me what you think the difference is between the two.
The difference is a zombie, what we will call a zombie, is someone who's died. They are dead, flatline, and they're a reanimated corpse.
Okay.
Infected is someone who's not dead. They are infected with some weird virus, like in 28 Days Later, monkey bites them because somebody was experimenting on the monkey, and so bodily fluid transfer, blood, spit, whatever. Then they're infected with the same virus. Rage, I think that's what they were infected with.
Yeah,
rage.
they were infected with rage, yeah.
And so they would just go berserk and try to kill everything. Same thing with the crazies. There was some sort of government facility. They fucking dumped. Oh, I think there was a plane crash, and so it accidentally got into the water of this small town. And of course, the first house next to the well, they're the first ones to get infected, and they're still very aware. They can talk, they can think, but they, for some reason, are very aggressive, and they want to kill things. They want to kill people. Now it's like I said earlier, in 28 Days Later, it's like eventually they're going to die. Because it's not like they're eating.
Yeah.
They're not trying
starvation
to eat
will usually kick in.
So it's like, yeah, they're going to just keep killing and killing and killing until they starve themselves to death and die. And same thing with the crazies. I think it was like there was some sort of fever, I think.
Okay.
I have to watch it again.
Yeah.
And I think there's another movie where it's like it's just their body temperature is like getting so hot.
Okay.
Eventually they're going to overheat and they're going to die.
Do you associate slow walking versus like running between zombie and infected? Like,
I mean, yeah, that's the majority of zombies are slow moving.
Okay.
Because rigor mortis is setting in.
And
so
I'm
that
sure
makes
there have
sense.
been movies where they bridge the two, where the undead would wake up but would still have like sort of the normal functions
like,
of.
Only a few. Like, there's the one is the Day of the Dead remake or Dawn of the Dead remake.
Yeah, Dawn of the Dead remake. That's the one that I can think of as well.
I'm sure that they made some other like direct-to-video
Yeah.
versions where they were still moving quick, but
Yeah.
for the most part, they're slow.
So we've decided to weave in the infected, and I think it started with 28 Days Later, with the fact that, they're taking this zombie thing on a new spin, and it's just like, well, are they though? Because to me, they're completely different. So it's like, is it because they both want to like eat humans? I mean, is that where the bridge sort of connects, is the fact that they just want human flesh and they don't kill each other? Because that's the other thing too, is that they only want the living blooded people, the warm blooded people, the ones that are still,
So I have to call bullshit on the whole smelling, like their noses are rotting off of their faces. It's like, how can they smell a human? The difference between what's alive and what's dead. It's really creative and different and gross every time they have to cover themselves in some zombie's guts. Oh, I'm sorry. The Z word. But, again, it's like it's like eventually I'm like, when am I going to meet a zombie that their eyeballs are just gone because, they're decomposing.
and they're still walking around.
But still, it's like
doing-
they can see perfectly. Or if you make a sound, their eardrums are just always perfectly intact.
Well, remember, it's always as long as that brain is still active.
I know.
But they can do whatever.
Everything is rotting. So it's just it's crazy. But
I've seen a couple movies where the infected or undead responds to sound. Like, they don't even need to see you. As long as they can get your hands on you, if they hear you, that's it. That wasn't like the only rule. It's just I've seen it happen
Yeah.
before. So I guess as long as the brain's working.
I mean, the only thing that they have in common across the board is that they are infected with something, and they want to kill things. That's it.
Yeah.
They are infected, whether we know what the source is or not, and then they change and they want to kill things. Whether they die and then they change, or they change and then they die. You know,
Yeah.
it's like that's the thing that they have in common. And basically, a lot of people will still consider this the zombie genre. I don't really care. I'm not gonna be like, oh, it's not a zombie movie. It's fine. Call it what you want.
Yeah,
I just think it's more creative. 28 Days Later is more interesting to me. The one thing I will point out, and I told you about this movie a while ago, it's basically a zombie movie if you watch it. It's called Demons from 1985.
Yeah.
Now, the reason I say that it's a zombie movie is that someone gets infected by something. And it's a different kind of infection. Like, she puts on a mask, this metal mask, and she's being basic. And then she's like, oh, I cut my face. So this mask cuts her, and then they go and watch the movie, and they're reading this incantation during the movie. So it's almost like she's being hypnotized by a subliminal message.
Yeah.
And then after that, they're biting people, they're eating people. So it's like somebody had to be infected first. There was an infection. Demons are possessing people. Because sometimes they'll bite people, but they possess them. You know, Night of the Demons, there's a possession first. Demon Knight, they possess people. He has to like get them to agree to something first, you know. They're not biting people, they're actually just eating them and killing them.
Yeah.
So that is where they try to be tricky, but I'm like, no, you shouldn't have called this demons. It's they're
just believe they're zombies.
They're zombies.
Yeah.
They're zombies. They just have pointy ass teeth.
Do you ever get scared of zombie movies? Do they ever like creep you out or anything when you're watching them?
Yeah,
or they're just
sure.
very entertaining?
I mean, they're stressful.
Yeah.
It's stressful watching these people try to like navigate. The Walking Dead is always stressful when it's like, oh, there's a horde. Great. Or they come around the corner and it's like, fuck, this alley is filled.
Sometimes they're like ninjas. Like the way that they get filmed, they are quiet to the very last minute.
Right.
Like they know how to creep, and they're not even thinking about it. They're just walking all slow.
They're all scary. The Crazies and 28 Days Later. It's just.
Do you get more, I guess, scared or feel suspenseful when they are slow walking, or the more fast paced ones where they can pretty much catch up to you when running? When if they're slow enough, you can just kind of walk past them. Like,
I don't think that's the difference for me. It's just the numbers.
Okay.
Because, I think if they're fast moving and there's just one of them, it's more intense. Mm-hmm. But when you have one on The Walking Dead, it's like, okay, we'll just walk around that one.
Yeah,
we're not going to waste a bullet and make noise. We're just going to walk away. But then you have 20 of them walking, and it's like, they're blocking the entire road.
Yeah.
That, then it's like, God, it's a puzzle. How do we navigate this? That's stressful.
I don't want to stick on like 28 Days Later, like beat it with a stick throughout this whole episode, but I do want to kind of bring up the time when I did see it for the very first time. And I don't remember the trailer that well, but what I do remember is that I walked into this thinking that these, people who were going to, try and kill everyone were the slow walking zombies that I'm used to. And, I remember Cillian Murphy walks into that church and he just says hello, and then two of them just become so alert. And I was like, okay, that's creepy. And then all of a sudden, the preacher comes out and he's running after him. And that blew my mind because I was like, oh my God, there you can run now. And the whole time I thought that they were zombies. I thought that they were all dead and that they rose from the grave or from, wherever they died. That was a moment for me because it was just something that I did not expect. And I wonder if it was all in like movie news, like you knew that it was going to be so different from what we're used to, and they advertised that as a way to get people in. I had no clue, but it was just one of those moments where it's like, we're doing this now. And I found that movie terrifying because of it, because I had no idea how they were going to work through that, because I'm used to them just walking past them and not worrying about it. It's the horde that is terrifying because they outnumber you.
Yeah.
So I just like the fact that movie did take a risk on just turning it and just kind of make it in their own, and then it just spawned all of these other creative ideas. Now I tend to like sort of the non-traditional zombie if infected movies. I like the ones that are completely different from the whole thing, and some of it kind of falls into the horror comedy sort of perspective. Unfortunately, I did not like World War Z. I will go on record right now, that movie was boring to me. It was more of a war movie than a zombie movie, and it's just something that I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, I don't think they adapted it faithfully from the book.
Yeah.
I don't think they did.
It was really appealing to see so many people turn so instantly. I think the scene where we do get to see them change when in that traffic jam.
Yeah.
And you get to see how quick it was. Because anytime you walk into one of these kind of movies, you got to wonder what the rules are. They're always different. You never know which one you're going to be in. And in that one, they literally showed shot for shot how easy it was to turn. And that to me was terrifying, which explains why there were so many. But then it just started looking cartoonish and just a little weird, and I just wasn't feeling it. Anyways, movies like, did you ever hear about Fido? It was a horror comedy.
Is this like a dog movie?
No, but that's but no. But I mean that's kind of what the title is about. So in this particular movie, basically you would the world already knows that there are zombies, right? And this movie also takes place in the 1950s. So they discover zombies are in the world, but the government has found a way to contain and control. So in this movie, families were given zombies as pets / like helpers. So like Fido is used for like a dog. A dog would go and get the paper and get your slippers and stuff like that. And so these families would use the undead because they don't sleep, they don't need to be fed, they don't need to get paid, and they're used for manual labor. And it was just sort of this commentary about, I guess the moral aspect of like treating a zombie who's animated and who has a little bit of cognitive thinking. Are they still a person? And should they be treated like that? I mean, technically they were slaves, to put it bluntly. And I actually like that. You never heard of this?
No.
It had Carrie-Anne Moss in it. Who's another person? Billy Connolly was in it. Yeah, I thought this movie was really clever and different. This is here, let me show you a post really quick. Yeah, you've never heard of this?
I have never heard of
this. Oh,
this.
Okay. Yeah. I thought it was really clever, and again, it's just different from what we're used to. I mean, it wasn't necessarily horror. I think there was a part where, one was unleashed and, he had a chance to kill, but I think they're like one of the little kids who had them in their family. It's kind of like Humans. It's sort of like that TV show Humans. And so like they formed a bond and all this stuff. I like that kind of stuff. Or like Girl with All the Gifts.
That movie was so sad.
But I mean, I liked that specific point of view.
Yeah, no, that was very interesting. I mean, even just the point of infection being weird.
Yeah.
And just, the spores. It wasn't like gas or something in the water. It was like spores that people breathed in. And it was just, it was different. So yeah.
But I like that. Another one that I thought was pretty clever was Cooties with Elijah Wood and Rainn Wilson. Have you heard of this one?
You said you watched it the other day.
Yes, I did. So Cooties is 2014.
God.
They actually ended the movie opening it up for a sequel, but I have not heard anything about it since then. But basically at this specific school, a chicken was sort of contaminated with something, laid eggs. The eggs were then transferred to this school where they serve school lunches. One girl ate a contaminated chicken nugget, got infected, started passing it around at recess, and the shit hits the fan. But you know that term cooties, when you're a kid and they basically just kind of took that and ran with it. But it was only the kids who got it. This specific infection only worked on humans who didn't go through puberty. So it would not have affected the adults whatsoever. And it was all about the faculty that had to, live through the day to get away from the kids.
So wait a minute. Circle, circle, dot, dot. Did anyone get a cootie shot?
Right?
I just want to know, did they do that?
No, they did not do that.
Well, that was a wasted opportunity.
I know. But I thought that premise and the way that they executed for a horror comedy was pretty clever because, again, you don't see many kids put in that type of danger or being physically hurt on screen for you to see. They usually keep that kind of stuff off screen. And they went all out for this one. And those kids were no joke.
Jeez.
But they weren't like brainless, like kids. They
weren't zombies. They were infected.
They just were, very rage and they wanted brains and all that stuff, but they knew how to open doors. They knew how to set traps. They knew, like, one of them went to like the basement or something, cut the phone line so nobody could, it was that serious. And yeah, I just thought that was like a very clever, way of using sort of, the undead or the infected, kind of subgenre for that. So I thought that was cool.
So let's talk about another theme that they all have in common, which is the fucking government. That is something that they all have in common. That is something that the genre across the board will always have. Because the infection comes from somewhere.
So we're pretty much our own worst enemy. It's always man-made.
It's pretty much, except for the one I gave the example of, what was it? In the Flesh. But even then, at the end, it's like the government is fucking evil because it's like they rehabilitate all these people, but then they're still interfering. They're doing experiments. So it never ends. So there's always something that they're doing. And then you have to think about the bigger theme and the message behind it. It's like, can you really trust these people in power?
And do we ever know exactly what it is that they're trying to do?
No.
The one time that I thought that, not to say it was righteous to have sort of this outbreak of the undead and infected, but I would say if it's going to happen, do it for a good reason. It's I Am Legend. They tried to cure cancer or HIV, was it?
It was cancer.
It was cancer. And so I love the opening of that movie. They were on the news like, we've discovered the cure for cancer. And they were just so confident. And then bam, few, years later. And then obviously the shit didn't work. And it sucks. But that was for a good reason.
Yeah.
Like all these other movies, it's like, we wanted to, make weapons and we wanted to cure the common cold or some stupid shit like that, and then they fuck up. And
that's a really good point. They had the best of intentions, but still, it's like you were fucking with something and you were wrong. You had it wrong. It's really funny too. I like that movie.
Yeah.
And everyone hated it for good reason. Mm-hmm. I read the book.
Okay.
Not the same.
Was it dramatically different or?
Dramatically different.
Yeah.
Dramatically different.
Well, I'm sure he wasn't black either.
Well, if you read it, it doesn't say.
Oh, it doesn't say.
It doesn't say he's a white man.
Oh, okay.
But I'm sure when people read it, they will automatically do that because what? White is supposed to be the default.
Well, how can a black man ever, be that smart to come up with some, shit like that? But
No, the difference between the book and the film is that in the book, they're vampires.
Yeah,
They're
okay.
legit vampires.
Yeah.
They sleep during the day, and then they come to his house at night, and it's like holy water. All of these things crosses. They believe in it. I think he does come against a Jewish vampire or something, so it's like he has to use the Star of David. And at the end, he does die. They kill him because it's like they're trying to get rid of the humans. Now that they are vampires, they're taking over.
Yeah.
And it's weird. It's like he had an interaction with a woman. He's like, oh my God, he finds this woman, and he takes her into his house, and then he realizes she's wearing makeup. They're not like the movie. They talk, they are very intelligent, and, she's allows the other people to get into the house. So even though he has some sort of bond with her, like they have an interaction, and she gives him something to kill himself. I think pills or something, after they've captured him. It's not like the movie.
Yeah.
The movie's very, very different. They have this whole setup with his family, and then they're like these mindless. There's still the sun thing where they don't want to go out in the sun. They're allergic, but they're not vampires. They're not even really. They're not the flesh-eating zombies either. It's just they're angry.
Yeah, and I think didn't their figure change? Like
their face would stretch out really far. I mean, there's all of their hair fell out. Their skin was very, very translucent. But
I remember liking it when I saw it.
I liked it. It was just it was not like the book at all.
Yeah.
It was inspired by the book. It is not like the book. So it's just another. It's really sad. Like World War Z, you have these books that are very popular, and then people want to what is it? I Am Legend was in the works for decades because that book was written in the 70s.
Yeah.
So they were trying to make it for a long time. They originally wanted to do it with Arnold Schwarzenegger, which I think would have been strange. Arnold. But, it's sad when people are like, let's snatch this shit up and then let's fuck it up for a quick buck.
Yeah.
It happens all the time. It's like, just be a little patient and get it right.
Yeah.
People are going to be pissed. And even if people don't read the book, it's like, do it right so that they can actually watch what was written.
Yeah.
Don't do something weird. I don't know why people change things so drastically.
Yeah. So is there a movie in this particular category that you would recommend to our listeners who you believe have not seen it? Even if it's something we've talked about. But is there a movie out there you think nobody's watching and should that's in this category?
Oh, I'm sure all these little horror heads out here have watched everything. They know so much. The Crazies.
Crazies,
That's probably my favorite one.
Okay.
I'm glad they didn't make a sequel either.
Yeah.
Just leave it.
Okay. So The Crazies. I remember liking The Crazies.
Sorry, random story.
Yeah.
So you remember the scene where they're in the barn and they capture one of the military guys?
Okay.
And they take off his mask and he's freaking out. It's a young guy.
I think I remember that a little bit.
I used to go to the gym with him. It was so weird.
Oh, really?
We used to see him all the time and be like, yeah, he looks like he's in the military. And then we watched the movie and they took off his gas mask and we were like, hey.
Oh, you've seen him. That's funny.
Bald guy. He wasn't bald. He had really short hair. But
yeah.
Just funny.
No, that's cool. No, I like The Crazy. That is a good one. I like that one too.
Yeah.
I have two that I'm sure people... I've talked about one of them before. One of the most disturbing sort of titles that I've seen that kind of fits into this, and I think I've told you about this, is Dead Girl. Do you remember me talking about that one? Those two teenage boys who walk into this abandoned psychiatric ward, and they find this woman chained to a table, and they find out that she is, I guess, kind of still alive, but then they later find out that she can't be killed. And so they decide to use her as a sex toy. Yeah.
I don't know if you told me about this.
Oh, I didn't tell you about this.
Maybe you did, but this is
it's
gross.
So disturbing, and not in a. It's a little perverted, but it's not. It's not. I'm not recommending this to get your rocks off or anything. No, but it was just just so there's two of them. There's two teenage boys, and like one of them is all about it, and the other one's like, no, this is, we can't do this. This is gross. And it just kind of escalates. Their friendship is tested, and it's just sort of this upscale of like what they believe to be like, and it's very misogynist too. I mean, it's heavy on that. But yeah, I would recommend, just for the simple fact of just watching something different. It's a really disturbing movie.
Sounds disturbing, but it's to be expected of
yeah.
them.
Another one is, I think this was 2006 or 2000. Yeah, 2006. It's Mulberry Street. Have you ever heard of this?
Don't think so.
This was part of Horror Fest. Do you remember when they would come out with those 8 films to die for? So Mulberry Street was sort of like the undead infected sort of thing, but they would turn into these rat-like creatures when they were infected.
What?
Yeah. So a deadly infection breaks out in Manhattan, causing humans to devolve into bloodthirsty rat creatures.
Fascinating.
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed this movie. It was such a sleeper hit. I think it was my favorite of the 8 in that year. If you guys have heard of this, check it out. I recommend it. It's actually a really cool movie. I thought that was good. The one thing I like about those type of movies is because, well, it's not as cliche like you said. It's not just them rising from the grave. It's something different that they're trying to like get into. Because I mean, use your imagination, do whatever you want, But it's this fact of humans turning against humans that I think is super terrifying, and that your loved ones are no longer your loved ones anymore, even though they look and sound like them and all that good stuff. And then you bring in the aspect of them turning into different beings and creatures and stuff like that. That again is pretty terrifying, I think.
Something that they don't ever do, and people will probably be like, oh my god, I don't usually see this, and they don't even think about it being zombies unless they're like rotting, is the original idea of the zombie that we talked about 30 minutes ago. Someone controlling another person, whether it's through hypnotism or they've been drugged, and that's scary too. That's something that isn't used. You don't call them zombies. It's just like, I don't know, you're hypnotized. The only time that they used it recently was in Coven, when Marie Laveau brought people back from the dead, and she was controlling them.
This whole time I was trying to think, where have I seen this?
Yeah.
And that's what I was thinking.
That's the most recent one I can think of.
Oh my god, thank you for that.
She sent them to do her bidding, and it wasn't like they were trying to eat them. They were just going to kill them.
Yeah.
But they were like legit zombies, what people would think of. It's just that she was telling them what to do. And that's scary. Even whether they're dead or not, it's like somebody's going to like make me do something. I'm not going to know I'm doing it. But, they blow some powder into my face. They inject me with something, whatever.
Yeah.
That is scary, and they don't do that very often.
So things that they touch on still to this day in these movies, especially The Walking Dead, is that moral question of when you finally have been infected or bit or whatever, are they still them? And can you do what you need to do? So I don't know if this is a question that you can answer. Do you feel that when it comes down to it, you can do what you need to do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because in most examples, if this were to happen, it's like, well, someone's heart has stopped beating, they're dead.
But I mean, just to prevent you or anybody around you from getting hurt, could you do it before?
What were you saying, Rob?
I know, sorry. I was just slurring on my words.
No.
Could you do it before? They are still them. Sometimes.
Oh, that's up to them.
Well, sometimes they'll have the request like, "I don't want to be changed.
Yeah.
Don't let me change. Can you do it?" But it's still the fact of like taking a life that is still kind of hard to do sometimes, even if it's inevitable. I mean, they don't even have to be the undead to even think about that. Some people, have cancer and they don't, want to go through it, and it's just like, but you're saying that you can definitely just take their life, no questions asked.
I mean, this is a very theoretical question.
Of course.
But when the zombie apocalypse hits,
yeah.
gray alert, Rob, if you tell me I don't want to turn into a zombie, I will kill you.
Yeah.
Very quickly.
Mm-hmm. Well, do you find it realistic when everyone is so questionable about it and they're just so heartbroken to do it? I mean, not to say that it's super easy to do, but like it's still one of those things that just dredge up a whole bunch of emotions for audience to watch because for some reason it's really hard to do.
Yeah.
I would think it would be kind
Depends
of an
on the
easy
relationship.
thing to do. Oh, okay. So there you go.
Not saying that you don't matter to me.
Yeah.
But if my niece was bitten, she's a little girl, that would be very hard. And of course, we always want to hold out hope, like, oh, there's a cure, and we just have to just cut off the arm. It's fine. Which,
well, that's the other thing too.
Walking Dead,
just
they cut off that.
Yeah.
What did they do? They cut off his leg, and
they
I was
cut off
like,
his leg, and it worked. But no, I mean, but that's the thing too. It's like we found out about this new phenomenon. We don't know what's going on. Is there a cure? Season 2, Walking Dead, his whole theory, they're going to find something. I'm going to keep all of them in a barn until they find a cure because I'm not a killer. It's just stuff like that. I mean, obviously we can't make a decision, but it's just like, do we hold out for that? Is it, or is it just...
But the thing is, especially based on the span of time we have, because there's always like, well, sometimes it takes 30 minutes, sometimes it's 4 hours.
Yeah.
Sometimes, because it's like a fever sets in and then they die and then they come back. Or sometimes there's no fever, like in Resident Evil. It's just eventually they'll change. You know, we don't know how long it's going to take, but once you're bit, you're pretty much screwed. Actually, even in that movie, they had the cure, but what's her name, Michelle Rodriguez just didn't get it in time, or it didn't work. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you only have so much time before this person is going to die. Their heart is going to stop beating, and they're going to stop being them.
Yeah.
You have to do what is requested. If I don't want to be a zombie, but I don't want you to shoot me in the head, just wait for me to die. And as soon as my heart stops beating, take care of it.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to get back up. I don't want to bite you. I don't want to kill you. I don't want to be responsible for that. So, yeah, it's just being courteous, I guess, at the end of the world.
So, let's see. Last question. Round it up. What kind of zombie movie or undead or infected would you like to see in the future? I'm not asking you to give me like a movie idea, but like has somebody hit the mark and this is bam, this is how I like to see this genre. I want to see movies like these.
I think I don't really have an answer for that. I've seen so many different, like Romero has done so many different things with what was it? Zombie Land, not Zombie Land. What was it called? The one with John Leguizamo.
Land of the Dead.
Land of the Dead.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole society going on, and still on the outskirts, there was this thing happening. There's been so many different iterations. I don't think about it very much. I think I would like to read more. I like to find different things to read. Since I've kind of stopped watching The Walking Dead, I should probably read the comics now.
Yeah. I've always wanted to get into that series too.
I just was so like, I cannot read these because I don't want any spoilers, but you know.
Well, that now, I know, and that's why I decided not to watch,
I mean, because, you know, Glenn was supposed to die, he was supposed to die a long, long time ago. And then finally they got him.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just depends on what's available, but I don't have any sort of ideas.
Okay. Well, what I would like to see is more topic on the discussion of how much of themselves are still in there when they turn. You know, they've got a bunch of shows now where they're returned, or, you know, people who were dead and they're all coming back and stuff like that. Are they still them? The topic of the soul and, you know, different personalities. Do they come back the same? I want more of that sort of undead talk. And so I guess I'm asking for, like a non-horror sort of undead zombie movie. I don't know. I've kind of...
Well,
I mean,
they've had those.
Yeah, but
What
that's
was
the
that
thing.
movie called with the guy, like his heart started beating?
Warm Bodies. Yeah.
I mean, it's like he was in there, but he was just a zombie.
So, but I just kind of want to see more of those type of movies coming out. I like those.
You should watch In the Flesh,
Okay.
even though I got canceled.
Yeah.
But
No, well,
there's
I
a
don't
lot
care.
of
Yeah.
a lot of that where it's like they start having memories of when they were not themselves.
Yeah. And they don't have to be fully rehabilitated. Like, I don't mind a creepy zombie movie where, they're like struggling or, just being resurrected. But at the same time, I just want more of that sort of discussion of, how human are they and all that stuff. Or do they just deserve to just die
Actually,
no
you
matter what?
should really watch. Everybody, go watch In the Flesh. They're never going to bring it back. I signed a petition for a 3rd season, but it's never going to happen.
Yeah.
But yes, you should watch In the Flesh. It's a BBC show. It's really good. There's some really good representation for LGBT.
Very good.
And it's just a really good commentary about people always being against each other. Because it's almost kind of like the same thing with X-Men, but it's like people who are alive and people who were dead. And it's like, oh, we don't like them being in our neighborhood.
Oh, that sounds so familiar. Is it a British show?
Yeah,
Is it on
BBC.
Hulu?
It might be on Hulu.
I may have watched a couple of episodes of
Blonde
this.
guy?
It
He's the
just
main
sounds
character.
so familiar. Wasn't there a barrier or like a wall? Like, didn't they create like sort of like a wall and and then you had to like go through this specific like entrance and
Maybe.
prove that you were human or something. I don't.
Oh,
I'll have to
no.
look it up. There was one show that I watched only 2 episodes of, and I just couldn't get into it at the moment. But it sounds very familiar to
I
that.
don't think that's it.
Okay.
No.
It's probably something different. But I also like I would love sort of like a Walking Dead sort of show, but less on constant. Like, I know that when you watch a TV series, it's really fun to connect with people because then you start to care. Therefore, you get more excited or emotional when things happen to them. But when you've got stars on a show that are never going to die because they're just that popular, it gets boring. I would love, like, The Walking Dead should have passed the torch to a totally different group like 3 seasons ago. In my opinion, if a show wants to go on forever, just like they change showrunners and directors and producers, they need to just change all of it. Just keep going and just put in a different batch of people. I would love the fact if no one was safe. And they keep saying that, but I'm sorry. There are people on The Walking Dead that are safe, 100%. And I'm just kind of over that. And they keep introducing new people who are so interesting.
And then they get eaten right away.
And then they get eaten right away. Like, they are so cool. And I want to know more. And that doesn't dismiss the ones that I already love. Like, if they touch Carol, I'll probably stop watching. But at the same time, I just want them to just... I just don't need them all to be flawless. It's gotten to a point now where we know they're not going anywhere. I don't fear for their lives. If anything, I usually fast forward because I'm like, none's gonna happen to them. It's the same old shit. Get away, yada yada. So I would like to see that type of show where anything's possible. If the lead actor goes, he goes, and somebody else takes over. So yeah,
Nice.
hopefully. But
Well.
yeah.
I think we covered a lot of ground.
We did. And of course, there are tons of zombie movies that we did not cover, but I wanted to focus on sort of the difference between undead and infected and how those two movies correlate. And yeah, I think we touched the topic very well.
Let's do a bitch really.
All right. I have one, but if you have one.
I have one.
Okay, go ahead.
Shit, Rob. So in the Dawn of the Dead remake.
Dawn.
Dawn. In the Dawn of the Dead remake, after they've built their little tanks and people have chainsaws.
Yes.
For some reason, that blonde chick stops this older gentleman from using one of the chainsaws. She's like, no, old man. And then they crash into something and he accidentally saws her in half. Bitch, mind your business. I mean, I don't know what she was thinking.
She's probably like, oh, he's too old to handle it.
I mean,
So we don't want you, fucking yourself if you ain't allowed to drive. So we don't want you handling heavy machinery.
She should have just let him put it through the slot, and then it would have been where it was supposed to be. But instead,
I think I remember that part.
I just thought, like,
wasn't that something like to laugh at? Wasn't that like something?
I didn't
funny?
think it was funny. I thought, ooh, well, that
I think it was
sucks.
definitely
Because they
unexpected.
came right down
Yes.
the collarbone.
I think I do remember that
Yeah.
scene.
So, quick and sweet.
Let
Bitch.
everyone do their part.
Yeah.
We all have a purpose.
And yours is to get sawed in half.
No, that's a good one. I'll have to try and find that scene. That'd be funny to watch again.
Oh my god, Rob, you have a sixth sense of humor. All right. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about the undead and the infected and the soon to be dead because they're so mad. They're pressed. That's what they are. And, you'll hear from us again soon. And we'll catch you next time. Maybe. Hopefully. On Bitch I Ain't Scared.